Hello and welcome to Able Diaries. This week, slight change. Slight format change. Normally we do the news, and we will do the news next week. However, we were looking back through our podcast. How many done? 50? 55 now?
Could do.
A lot of our early ones were about us and our studio, and I missed those episodes and I was thinking about them a lot. And I thought, you've been looking at in your office, potentially,
Yes,
and
yep.
that has brought a lot of things to our head about growth and what do we do and how are we going to get there? So I thought I'd frame this episode as I got given an amazing book by Wont at my old practice, which was like, what got you here won't get you there. And I thought it's really resonated with me. So I thought, you don't know what I'm about to do, but I thought I'd fire 5 questions at you.
Okay.
I know how much you love being put under pressure, which are about
Pressure's my middle name, Ben.
growth and who we are and what we need to become growth. So we've been talking lots about it in the office.
This is raw. Wow.
Yeah. I thought I'd put you right on the spot.
Okay.
Okay, let me frame this. So yesterday I was thinking, I love doing stuff in Rhino. I love doing stuff in D5. That's like my happy place. That's why we started Able. That's what I needed to do to get us those first projects. And we work really closely together. And now suddenly we have part ones who are significantly faster and better than me at doing those things. Yeah. And the most value I can bring to a business is actually being in meetings with clients. You know, I went to a huge contractor meeting yesterday. I was just thrown in it at the deep end and no one knew what to do. And I just got my iPad out and I sketched all the details in front of everyone. Everyone crowded around my iPad. And within half an hour, 45 minutes, all these details were done. And I was like, that's the value I add.
Yeah, of course.
But that isn't necessarily the creative driving force that you're at uni, but it's what's best for the business. So I guess a lot of these questions are framed around, in the society building, there are a lot of other smaller practices, around the sort of 2-3 mark. And we've all, you always said it's actually harder to go from 2 to 5 to 10 than it is to go from 10 to 20. Like once you've got over that initial.
Yeah, I hope that's true.
I hope that's true. But I just thought, so the first question is, Bill.
Okay, this feels like I'm on the...
Yeah, you are. I thought
Is this therapy, Ben?
Yeah,
it feels like... Is this something you've been wanting to ask me and you thought, if I point a camera, you can't tell me to Jeff off and...
No.
Okay, all right.
Okay, what part of an architect did you have to let go of to grow the business?
What part of an architect? So I'm maybe in a slightly different place in this, and there's a phrase from business school like delivering through others, which everyone takes the piss out of me for basically meaning getting everyone else to do the work. But I think, we all have the same hours in the day and you have to learn how to deliver through others. And I don't see not doing the Rhino modeling, for example, as not doing the work. It's just what's the best use of your time. So in a way, the more people you have, the more impact you can have. And I'm kind of aware that if you run a studio of 100 people, you're not going to be the project architect on all of them, but you are definitely going to add value. It's funny though, as you get older, so I'll answer the question, what did I have to let go of? I don't feel I've let go of anything, if I'm completely honest. I feel like as you get a bit older, the projects, it's not that they become all the same, but actually, there's a lot of overlap in what's going to work and you go to the bit that is new or original or avant-garde or challenging about each one faster. When we did that first bank years ago, it was the first time we'd done a lift package, a roof package, a facade package. They were all massive problems and opportunities to learn. Whereas now, actually, we go in hard on this BRPD or the high-risk building stuff or the Building Safety Act stuff, or how can we make this commercially viable, or how can we make this affordable for the client by only giving them the deliverables that they really need. So those things excite me. And the running of the business, in a way, you take on people and you have a responsibility to them to pay them every month. That's a responsibility I take seriously. But I don't think it's at the expense of doing the projects. I still get excited when they come in and I still get that fun of sketching them out. We just need help doing it. So what have I had to let go of? Maybe some of that quiet satisfaction of, quietly noding out geometries, and it is quite satisfying. So that is someone else now.
That's exactly my answer too. And that's something... I think you're always about 6 months to a year ahead of where I need to be, as in I'm just warring with this idea of Yeah, but you won't have time to do those things because someone else, that's why we have a whole team of people. You need to be out doing something else. And I feel like I'm gripping onto that because I'm like, no, but that's the bit I love. You have, that's the whole point of that book. What got you there won't get, what got you here won't get you there is like, you go from being an expert at something that you're really familiar with to suddenly moving into a position which you're not familiar with and you have to relearn everything again. And that process is something you have to do constantly as a business. All right, good. Right.
Oh, good. All right. Okay, I like this.
I knew you would, but I know you. Where do you personally create the most value today? And is this where you actually enjoy spending your time?
So, okay, I'm going to be completely honest here because I don't see any point in not doing it. And I try and tell this to the right people. Sales is the highest value thing you can provide really for any business. And I come from a kind of middle class family where sales was a bit of a dirty word. Whereas actually it isn't. It's finding people who need the services you sell and giving them a really great solution to their problem. We have HR things and I'm looking out for a great HR provider and we found one and it's not that expensive and I'm absolutely delighted. But they came from a cold call and it's completely solved one of our problems. And I think of it more like there are people out there who are facing these challenges and we're providing them. And my feeling is if you can bring in work, the value that has to businesses, whether it's an architecture practice or anything, is enormous compared to basically sort of commoditized things like drawing a GA or, there are a huge amount of people who can do that and your value will be set almost at a market rate. And so I think the value that I bring is growing and activating a network that can ultimately bring in work. I mean, that if I had to put it down to a single thing, I think that's one. And then, you've got to be quite persuasive, not just with clients, but also why do young people or old people want to come and work for you? Like, what is the culture of the business? Is work going to be fun? Do you share the same values? All of those things, you're in a battle for talent against people. And I think that's something you're also very good at, although you're less time on the Rhino. I think setting culture and making people like they're excited to come to work and it's going to be fun and there's going to be a bit of hard work, but there's going to be some light relief. I think that the kind of culture and sales, there you go.
Well, no, I think...
Oh, and do I enjoy doing it?
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's that slight difference with me. I spent 6 months on a lift package, a famous project that we won't reference, but coming in every day and seeing the same 80 drawings and going through, it's probably the most difficult time in my career. And I'm very sympathetic to people who have to do that now, which is deliberately with part ones, while we try, or part twos even, we actually try and give people a bit more variety. Even if you've got 2 projects, not loads, even if you've got something at a different stage, it's completely like, a rest is as good as a holiday. And I think for me, graduating out of that has made me delighted.
Yeah.
And so do I like it? Yeah, I do like it. And actually, when you go out there and you kick down doors and you go to drinks parties and you make relationships and then you follow it up and then you're proud to show your portfolio and then it turns into a bit of work, it's very satisfying because it's the hardest thing to automate. You can set up a SharePoint system, you can set up an HR portal, you can set up a podcast studio, but that last, the fourth side of the box, whereas, Grosvenor actually calling us up and saying, do that, you just can't, that's the fugazi,
Yeah. Well, we were joking, we've been going for 4.5 years and we were joking, this week is how we just assumed our first 6 months.
Maybe, yeah.
All of these connections that we had to build. But I think going you do enjoy networking and you do enjoy the sort of client-facing stuff to the point where I don't think a lot of architects like that part. They'll do it, but they don't like it. And you've had to sort of move your way through the clouds of architects. And we've all done this. You join an architecture practice. No, you have to start at the bottom and work your way up. You can't just because you're really good at communicating ideas doesn't mean you get to do all the presentations, even though that is the best use of someone's skill set. And I think now we've got through that bumpy cloud. We're doing the things that you're very good at building new connections and really making those connections work. And then I come straight in at the back and then double down on it so that all of those things, all of our clients have been repeat clients. We've never lost a client.
It's totally right. But I also think Get people doing what they're good at. We've got a young guy called Finn Walsh. He's quite, he's quite extrovert like me, and he's joined a BCO as a next gen. Get people early doing what they want. And actually, our form of practice, which we loved, I thought they were good at doing that to me. Getting me into events and doing the things I want to do. So actually, there's a great phrase in business school like leadership is non-hierarchical. You don't have to wait to be called an associate or a project manager. You can actually start leading just by being who you are and setting a really good example and being proactive and getting out there. So I think you want to get people we've got the noise cancelling headphone brigade who want to sit there and do advanced geometry, get them doing what they're good at. And I think
I do, and I love it.
Yeah, apart from you have to take it. But I think get people doing what they're good at, and hopefully then, you get the best out of people, and then they get their job satisfaction of feeling like I'm really good at this. I don't think it's so much that architects don't really like networking. I think a lot of architects became architects because they wanted to design buildings.
Yeah.
And that's really what they want to do. I mean, without sort of blowing my trumpet, I am genuinely interested in people. I used to think, oh God, he's a financial analyst, but actually what are you analysing? What are the trends that are coming? What's it like actually working at BlackRock? Is it as lucrative as you all pretend it is? Is there job security? What are the politics? When you peek behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz, actually, they're unstable, complex. They have all this politics that we have. And I think, the more you work with all these different type of people, the more, you meet the leader of a council, you think, oh, that's fun. Actually, once you pick at it, there's the challenge. I think being interested in people is the key, and I would say most architects broadly are.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Here we go. Number 3. What got you here that is now holding the practice back?
Ah, wow. What got me here that is now holding the practice back? Oh, a chance for self-reflection. I think we used to have a lot of time for speculative ideas that were just fun. And I think we were able to compete with them because actually a lot of the successful practices, we're just, knee deep in the projects and doing the work, and we could make great images and great ideas and be very playful. And that actually helped get us noticed. And now that we've got quite a full order book of projects, those type of things have been diminished, and it's about how we can get that space back to carry on being heard above the noise floor.
Yeah.
That's a bit like, what's your weakness? It's like, I'm too
talented.
Thoughtful.
No, but it's a really good. The whole reason this kind of triggered in my head is like things that I felt like we used to have to lean on to grow, we now don't have time for, and that's making me panic a little bit. But then this week, things that we always dreamt of, those networks, those connections with those clients that we like are so hard to get, like to have a repeat interview or to get their team to come in is much harder. So I'm basically just, if you're starting a business and your business is 2 or 3 years old, it's like, yeah, you need images to stand out. But then also a lot of our work has come through nothing that they've seen outwardly.
Well, there were 2 networks on this. There's the network of, here's our LinkedIn, and here's our website, and here's our podcasts, and isn't this so great? And that's like one network. And then almost untouched is the network of references. I had a good experience with them doing this job.
Yeah.
But project managers have brought us in on a project just because of a good job we've done. And those are the hard yards of growing the business. And architecture is a bit slow, despite what our friend François Tronche says. You've got to go through and deliver projects slowly and get recommended. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing this. It's a bit of a vanity thing, because that's, they say marketing, it's sort of awareness, adoption, advocacy. So you need to be made aware of people, which is what all of this is. Then the hardest bit is that conversion to here's a desktop study, or here's a small put a duct in a hospital, or and then we had such a positive experience. Then they become advocates for us and say, you've got to use these able boys. And we with certain clients that, each client is a slightly different stage of that. So people listening to this might be just at the awareness stage. I wish these bloody guys would shut up. All I do is see but that is, you know, you don't know that that's not not useful.
Well, that's why, like, going back to this idea of like us switching to a bigger office, you know, it's like marketing's what you tell people and branding's what people talk about you behind your back. It's like we did a lot of marketing, but now our brand has had time to like simmer away. So the office is, I think one of the big things is like, will it affect our brand? You know, will it change us as a culture? Will it improve our brand? Will people enjoy coming more to a sort of rough and ready office that's just ours, that's our space, or do they, you know? So we're constantly.
Well, I think it's back to the first thing you said about that, all those extra small fun ideas. For me, the reason I really want to get in there is that we're in a shared space and we've got our own demised desks and things, but the culture is set by the wider co-working thing. Actually, if everyone's in there and it's fun and it's high energy, you get all that discretion effort, that sort of discretional effort back, because basically instead of finishing at 6 and the lights are going down and all the contractors are going home, it's like, oh, hang on, come on, this is this idea for the BT Tower or this idea for this competition. It goes on the board and, you know, and we can sketch it and everyone gets enthused and maybe there's some drinks, some cake and you don't have to stay. I'm not one of these, oh God, you know, pizza party and you get another 3 hours work out of us. But a bit of that, just like, well, we're going to do it and it's going to be fun. And my friend from Arup's coming in, or a friend from Elliot Wood's coming in, and we're just going to brainstorm it. You know, actually, the young people we have really drunk the Kool-Aid and they want to be fantastic architects and they want to do these projects. And I think it will help. And also you can leave it up overnight and you can start again in the morning, or there can be a half-finished project that next Friday afternoon when we stop at lunchtime, we can all just give it a half-day hit. So I think all of that will benefit the brand. And it's not so much about clients will come in and think, isn't this terrific? Although I think that will happen. It's more, I'll come in and think, isn't this terrific? And that'll be very energizing. And, you know, for me, I'm not the latte machine. That's not a big deal to me. I'd much rather have a Nescafe and, you know, a Charles Peterson soundtrack. And
you will never drink a Nescafe. Don't even pretend. But I think you're right. I do. But
the principle is, we're almost going back to our roots. And for me, it's a big step change. It's like we couldn't have afforded it. We've always wanted it. Now we can just about afford it. There's a risk that the market will collapse or we'll make some howler and no one will use us again. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think it will help. It'll help. You know, and the kind of projects we work on, sometimes they're confidential and we're in a co-working space, albeit in a screened off area, actually coming in and clients seeing, this is the bunker, these are all my projects, you know, sitting comfortably, pinning up on the wall. I mean, it's a bit old school, but actually pinning it up, I've got an idea about that I want to talk to you about. But I'm very excited, but I am slightly intoxicated by I've wanted this for so long.
But also, like, I remember the first time I ever met your dad was at like a mate client party, and he was like, remember, businesses are always growing or shrinking. There's like no middle. Even if you're static, that means you're shrinking. And growth is exciting and change is exciting to us as well. It'll be a change. You know, we've been in here for what, 3 years?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can totally see. All right, 2 more questions. How do you know when to stop being creative and start being the leader? These are more questions if you're a small practice.
Do you want to answer these? Or I feel like, I mean, I'm happy to, but I feel like you're interviewing me.
I don't. I'm curious of your answers.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Being creative and being a leader, I'm the bore that keeps referencing business school, but I think there's this idea that architecture is a creative job and other jobs perhaps are not. That has not been my experience at all. Meeting people who are growing businesses that provide what might be perceived as like mundane services, how you generate income when your back's against the wall, how you attract talent that is better than you can afford by incentivizing them with various things, how you can keep a client who's unhappy, how you can turn around a failing project with the right attitude and the right people and the right way. Like, these are really, how do you pivot from petrochemicals into solar? How do you pivot from, you know, how, if electric cars are not taking off, how do you manage, you know, they're very like the creativity that goes into running successful.
Really?
Oh, that's funny. That's gone off faster than usual. So, you know, being a leader is being very, I think it is being very creative.
Yes. So, but this is, I guess this is as much about me understanding myself as well, is that like, You remember we spoke to Henry Dezoot and he was saying like some people, they're good on the tools, but if you push them into a very senior management position, they're no longer doing the thing they're particularly good at. So they have to they came up with different solutions to allow people to like carry on doing that thing. So I'm just sort of like feeling my way through the process of, but I'm really good and really fast at these things, but also I can't do it all the time. And then, so I'm sort of just bouncing around. Like if like a lot of architects that I know don't make very good big managers. They are really good at seeing everything across multiple different levels and doing it, and then like decoupling them from that. So, you know, part of the reason I like all our delivery projects is that you sort of take the sort of creativity and personality out of it. It's not your design. You're there to solve like a very complicated Lego problem, and I find that very satisfying because then when we do the small, fun, creative projects, they sort of scratch that itch, and I really enjoy that process. So, but I like the combination of the two. I like these big problems. I always have, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, your way of networking with people is to like, you're very good at going to a room, no one knows who you are, and just like going up to everyone and just like 1 minute. Well, it's like, it's almost mercenary.
Like a sort of sociopath.
Yeah. Well, no, but like everyone remembers you, and then afterwards you sort of pick out the people that would be good to network, and then we both go and see them, and if they actually like what we're doing, then the third time I see them, I'm sketching and meeting them, and it's like the perfect little filter set. So that was.
I think that on that though, there is a sort of high performers often don't get promoted because promoting you creates a massive problem, you know. And I noticed that at the firm we're doing a collaboration with incredibly good high performers who should be running much more of the company than they are, but you create a problem. I always think it was quite easy to promote me at our old practice because it didn't have any impact on like real productivity. It was like, oh, we could make him the manager. And I think that happens all over, that the managers are often like the lower performers who are maybe vibe guys or you know, personality hires, or people who are better at, you know, culture, or, you know, whether you called it a mild ADHD, like very perceptive at when people are starting to be unhappy or where cracks are beginning to appear. But I do also think there's a difference between leadership and management. And, you know, leadership is almost like, look, we're seeing strategically what needs to be done, setting that vision and going for it. And management is a little bit more about bringing everybody with you and understanding and running those teams. And I think a lot of architects make very good managers in that way. And then in terms of the projects, just to say that, like, this idea of one lone creative genius and that scratches the itch, my view on that has changed so much over the years. You know, there's such a collaborative process, architecture. You know, we'll all come with different ideas to the table, and then they'll be audited. And then, you know, you look at someone like Foster's, they've kind of commoditize the creativity, and I mean that as a compliment. You know, it's not just one guy's sketches and he's a sort of French genius and he's captured everything. It's like, no, Foster's, you know, you all come with these ideas, and then the sustainability guy looks at it, and the facade guy looks at it, and the town planning expert looks at it, and the visualizer looks at it, and you chip away, and all the weaker ideas fall away until there's something which hits all these marks. You know, that is a better product that is going to last than one great idea we've had and just like shot to the moon with it. And I think, you know, that's what you're trying to create, a table of experts. And we've got, you know, we have got 4 senior experts, and what I'd really like, you know, a table of 8, 20.
Yeah, more experts. And then Norman at the end goes, now I'll sketch that, and then that's the idea.
Or he doesn't even sketch it. He gets sold. Who's that lovely chap that does? Narinda, yeah.
Okay, last question. I guess the reason you're asking, do I want to answer these questions? This is more like research. They're questions that I think if a business manager was to interview any architecture practice, they should probably ask these questions. And the last question is, if Able doubled in size tomorrow, what version of yourself would need to exist that doesn't yet?
Doubled in size, I would say broadly similar. Yeah, it's a good question. It's almost like, what's that nth thing? I think that thing of a table of 8. So at the moment, we've got sort of 3, 4 of us running it, each running a team. And I think to be really sustainable, the goal for us is to get a really brilliant mezzanine layer of people who are sit below you, I'm going to call the technical director, which you'll hate, but like a really great delivery, an architect under you, and a really great one under David, and a really great, job winner under me, and we start building a structure that is bigger than us. And I think probably then, at the moment, I'm just in fifth gear going out into the open, and I think a real investment in that team. That idea of the servant leader, it's a sort of inverted triangle or gonogram, and it's like the Pope. They say the Catholic Church that the bigger your position, the more you serve. So the Pope is ultimately under pressure from the entire Catholic Church. Well, it's a bit like that. It's like, what does everyone need to perform, and why aren't they, and how can we support that? And I think it becomes a much more inward-looking role than an outward-looking role.
I guess one of our advantages is that we've always immediately known there's things we're really good at, but also things we have blind spots. We're not like, I can do absolutely everything on my own. And it's immediately led us to, we've got David. David probably can do everything on his own, but not everything. But like, we've all accepted that each one of us doesn't have all of the tools. And it's allowed us to have, I don't know, many of my friends who've set up their own businesses, they're two silos that work together as resilience, not they're helping each other do each other's projects. And they're all in little silos. Now, that's my project. And ours has always been like everyone. I think
it's that trust, isn't it? It's trust to let go and not try and control everything. Yeah. I think pick really, pick great people and then trust them.
Well, I was always confused at when we're at old practice, when you're first starting, like what should you, if you're in a big team, should I ask for help and hire someone, or should I just learn that because I'm not very good at it? Like, it was always like, no, you can't just hire someone because you don't. You're like, oh, right, sorry. So like every problem presented to you is like, no, you have to work it out and do it yourself. Whereas now it's like, oh, no, you do have to hire people. And you're like, okay, fair enough, right. Hire.
I think for us, we do need to know it a bit, and then you hire someone and train them. But yes, I feel like I've answered some of those. I wonder if there's any of them you wanted to.
No. This is like, I want anyone watching this, you can ask us questions or email us at hello@ablepartners.co.uk, because I do think there's a lot of people who are around, I guess year one, we were like, 1 to 2 people. Year 2 is like 2 to 5 people. Year 3 was like 5 to 10. And now we're like bouncing around the 10 to 15. And it sounds like we've just done that, but it has been a bit up and down. And I do think there are, there's other people in this practice who've quit, in this building who've quit, set up their own. And I know loads of people who are around the 4-person mark, and they don't get to that next bit. And I do think the networking that we have, and the environment
that's really difficult, is that there are so many deliverables and there's so much work in architecture. If you're a planning consultant and you write a really tight statement, that is really valuable to someone, but the overheads are very low. You can just do it one person, or you're a barrister and you write an opinion that is very helpful. There is value. Norman can do a napkin sketch and it's super cool, but you need an army of engineers and talent to bring that and to life. And so I wouldn't normally say, big is beautiful, because you can have a really profitable, successful, impactful 10 or 12 person firm. I always think of Peter Barber, this brilliant architect, award-winning. He's only got 5 or 6 people in his practice. So big is not necessarily successful, but you do seem to need to be big to win projects of a scale, and that has an impact on a social and a political and a urban level. So I don't want the impression that I just want to be big for the sake of it, but it is limiting on the kind of projects we do, and our background is on quite big buildings. So it's almost like the bigger we get, the closer we get to home, is how I feel.
Well, I guess the reason this all came out is this idea of a new office is so exciting, and I think one of the things, I don't know if it's a struggle or I'm having to get my head around, is like, I'm very proud that like if anyone left our business and we just went back down to you and me, I would know how to do everyone's jobs. Like, I might not be able to do them as quickly.
Thank God.
Yeah, well, that's my point. It's so unnerving, like, I guess one of the people, one of the people we did have who was incredible at Grasshopper and Rhino, it's like, that was the first time I'm like, okay, we've now employed someone who can do something so much better than you and I, that if they left, that we'd have to fix a hole. And I think that's like I guess the office is a sort of a structural version of like, okay, we're now having to build systems that like, if they leave, that leaves a gap that we can't fill ourselves, type of
Well,
thing.
maybe I sense that. I mean, we've never known really what the next year of revenue looks like, and that is always a leap of faith. But you have to look at our trading history and just have a bit of faith.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if you are apprehensive about it, we have a plan. What's the sublet plan?
Yeah.
How do we get someone in there, or do we sell cookies out of it? Or, like have a plan in your back pocket.
Diversification.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, have a plan to sublet it as storage and say, well, no, we only need to find it. I totally, but, we've always, we've always said, hire people better than you, which I've always found quite easy because I'm like, I've always never thought I was the top architecture student, but we've done it, and then when they're better than you, you're intimidated. That, oh Christ, what if they leave? But that's exactly where you want to be. Like, I'd much rather feel like we'd be screwed if they left, rather than I wish they'd leave.
but like it's a bit. I'm just not saying do the office, but like the office culture is like a retaining feature. That's one of the only weaknesses here. Is, well, one, you can't grow more than about 5 or 6, 7 people without it being really expensive, but 2, if you're not there, there's still like 100 people in the office, and I'm not saying like have the office as a retainer, but like I really remember having a really small studio when we first started our old practice downstairs. It was really fun, and it meant if you weren't there, it was really noticed. It was like the energy wasn't as much. Whereas here, you're like, well, it's always the same vibe. So I think, but I think the benefit of that is when you do bring your energy, it's really noticed. So like you do want to like have a bit more energy.
I see that, but also like when things are busy and it's good and it's productive, that is palpable. But also when there's not enough work, for example, that hollowness really reverberates. And is that bad that that's felt in here because there were so many different businesses? It's always fine, and you could sort of drown in plain sight. Whereas there, it almost, why isn't there enough work? Well, Bill hasn't done this, or Ben needs to do this. Then,
well, anyway, if you're, because we're doing this on YouTube, if you're new to watching us on YouTube, we are an open book, and I do, the commenting thing, I do want people to ask. Like, we are starting a business, it's going really well. Ask us questions, and it's on, just comment on us, and we're at able_partners on Instagram and able_partners on TikTok.
able_partners_.
Because we're really good at using the software. Right. Thank you.